The dining room lights were too bright. The air felt heavy, and the silence was thick enough to choke on. I looked down at my plate. The meatloaf looked dry just like always. I didn't want to be there, but I came because they are my family. Then everything changed in 1 second. Elijah, my 10-year-old nephew, leaned across the table. He didn't reach for the salt or the butter. He looked right into my eyes. Then he spat a large wad of saliva directly into my mashed potatoes. He didn't run away. He didn't apologize. He just smirked. "Dad says you deserve it," he said. His voice was clear and steady. I froze. I waited for my mother to yell. I waited for my sister to grab his arm. Instead, Shayna covered her mouth to hide a nasty smile. Marvin, my brother, and Elijah's father didn't even look up. He just kept chewing. And my mother, Vivian, just looked at her grandson with a quiet look of pride. They started to chuckle. They were laughing at me. In that moment, the cold truth hit me hard. I wasn't sitting with a family. I was sitting with a pack of wolves, and I was the meal. I stood up. My chair made a loud scraping sound against the wooden floor. It was a harsh noise, but nobody flinched. They were still laughing. The sound of their laughter filled the small dining room. It bounced off the walls and hit me in the chest. I looked at my hands. They were trembling, not just shaking a little bit. My hands were vibrating. I clenched them into fists to make it stop, but it didn't help. I looked at my mother, Vivian, sitting at the head of the table. She picked up her knife and fork, looked down at her meatloaf, and cut a small, perfect square. She put it in her mouth and chewed slowly. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at the spit on my plate. It was as if I wasn't even there. It was the most painful thing I had ever seen. My own mother was ignoring me while her grandson humiliated me. "Selah, sit down," Shayna said. She was still smiling, wiping a tear of laughter from her eye. "Don't be dramatic. Just a joke. Eli's just playing." "Yeah, Claire," Marvin added, his mouth full of food. "Don't be a baby. You know how kids are." I looked at them. I really looked at them. I saw Shayna's expensive highlights that I paid for. I saw the designer watch on Marvin's wrist that I bought him for his birthday. I saw the new curtains in my mother's dining room that I ordered online because she said the old ones were depressing. I realized something then. It was a cold, hard fact. I was not a person to them. I was not a daughter. I was not a sister. I was an object. I was a wallet. I was a punching bag. I tried to speak, but my throat felt tight. It felt like I had swallowed a stone. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of hearing my voice crack. I didn't want to cry in front of them. I had cried in front of them so many times before, and it never made a difference. Tears only made them roll their eyes, so I didn't say anything. I just turned around. "Where are you going?" Mom asked. Her voice was calm. It was the voice she used when she was talking to a telemarketer. "We haven't had dessert yet. I made the pie you like. The pie I like. The cherry pie." She only made it when she wanted something. I kept walking. I walked out of the dining room and into the hallway. My shoes were by the front door. I had taken them off when I came in because Mom didn't like dirt on her area rugs. They were my nice black heels. I looked at them, then I looked at the door. If I stopped to put on my shoes, I would have to bend down. I would have to delay leaving. I would have to hear more of their laughter. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stay in that house for one more second. I grabbed my purse from the hook. I opened the front door. The cold air hit me instantly. It was late November and the wind was biting. I stepped out onto the porch. Then I stepped down onto the concrete walkway. I was barefoot. The cold was shocking. Felt like stepping on ice. The concrete was rough and hard against the soles of my feet. I gasped, but I kept walking. I walked past the flower beds I had planted for Mom last spring. I walked past Marvin's big pickup truck, which I knew was low on gas because he always drove it until it was empty. I reached my car. My feet were numb already. I fumbled for my keys. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped them. They clattered onto the driveway. "Great," I whispered to myself. "Just great." I bent down to pick them up. I glanced back at the house. The window of the dining room was glowing with warm yellow light. I could see their silhouettes. They were still eating. They hadn't even stood up to see if I was okay. They were eating meatloaf and mashed potatoes as if nothing had happened. As if their daughter and sister hadn't just walked out into the freezing night without shoes. I unlocked my car and got in. I slammed the door shut. The silence inside the car was sudden and heavy. I locked the doors. I sat there for a moment, breathing hard. My breath made little white puffs in the cold air. I put the key in the ignition, but I didn't turn it. I looked at my feet. They were red and dirty. I curled my toes. They hurt, but the pain felt good. It felt real. The pain in my heart felt like a fog, but the pain in my feet was sharp and clear. I started the car. I backed out of the driveway. I didn't look back. I drove down the street, past the houses of neighbors I had known since I was a child. I wondered if they knew. I wondered if the neighbors heard the yelling over the years. I wondered if they knew that the Thorne family, the perfect family on the corner, was rotten on the inside. I drove toward the highway. My vision was blurry. I blinked and hot tears rolled down my cheeks. I wiped them away angrily. Stop it. I told myself. Do not cry for them. Do not waste one more tear. But I couldn't help it. The memories started flooding in. I remembered when I was 16. Mom forgot to pick me up from swim practice. I waited for 3 hours in the rain. When I finally walked home, she yelled at me for tracking mud in the house. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just worried about the floor. I remembered when Shayna got married. I spent my entire savings on her bachelorette party because she wanted to go to Vegas. I paid for the hotel, the flights, the dinner. At the wedding, during her speech, she thanked her friends. She thanked her parents. She thanked her dog. She didn't mention me. Not once. I remembered when Marvin crashed his first car. Dad blamed me. He said I should have been watching him. Marvin was 2 years older than me, but it was my fault. It was always my fault. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The road stretched out in front of me, dark and empty. I was driving fast, maybe a little too fast. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was something else. It was hot and heavy. It was anger. For 30 years I had tried to be good. I tried to be the perfect daughter. I got good grades. I got a good job. I loaned them money. I listened to their problems. I babysat Eli whenever they asked. I never said no. I thought if I was good enough, if I gave enough, they would finally love me. I thought they would look at me and say, "Good job, Claire. We love you, Claire." But tonight, Eli spat in my food and they laughed. That was the answer. That was the final answer to the question I had been asking my whole life. Do they love me? No. The realization hit me harder than the cold. They didn't love me. They used me. They tolerated me, but they didn't love me. I pulled off the highway and turned into my apartment complex. It was a nice place. It was quiet. I paid for it with my own money. My family called it lonely. They said I lived in a box. But tonight, looking at the brick building, it looked like a castle. It looked like a fortress. I parked the car in my spot. I turned off the engine. I sat in the dark for a long time. My feet were throbbing now as the blood started to rush back into them. I looked at the passenger seat. My purse was there. Inside was my phone. I knew it would be blowing up soon. Or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe they wouldn't care enough to call. I opened the door and stepped onto the pavement again. It was still freezing, but I didn't care. I walked up the stairs to my apartment on the second floor. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air in my apartment was warm. Smelled like vanilla and old books. Smelled like me. I closed the door and locked the deadbolt. I slid the chain across. I leaned my back against the door and slid down until I was sitting on the floor. I hugged my knees to my chest. I looked at my bare feet. They were swollen and red. I was alone. For the first time in my life, being alone didn't feel scary. It felt safe. I was done begging. I was done trying. I was done paying for a seat at a table where I wasn't wanted. I stayed on the floor for a long time just listening to the hum of the refrigerator. I was tired. I was exhausted down to my bones, but my mind was waking up. The frozen exit was over. I was out. I was home and I was never going back. I sat on the floor of my entryway for 20 minutes. The warmth of the floorboards slowly seeped into my legs. I finally stood up and walked to the kitchen. I needed water. My mouth felt dry like I had been running a marathon. I poured a glass of water and drank it in one gulp. Then my phone buzzed in my purse. I stared at the purse sitting on the counter. It buzzed again and again. My heart jumped. Old habits die hard. My body reacted before my brain did. Pick it up, my brain said. It might be an emergency. Someone might be hurt. I reached for the phone. I pulled it out. The screen lit up with a message from Mom. I swiped the screen to unlock it. I read the message. Claire, you made a scene. Very immature. You ruined a nice family dinner. Eli is crying because he thinks you hate him. Don't contact us again until you are ready to apologize to your nephew and your sister. I read it twice. Apologize. I said the word out loud. It sounded foreign in my empty kitchen. She wanted me to apologize. Eli had spat in my food. Marvin had laughed. Shayna had mocked me. And Mom wanted me to apologize. It was a receipt. That's what the message was. It was a receipt for 30 years of emotional transaction. It was proof. She didn't care about my feelings. She only cared that I had made a scene. Appearance was everything to Vivian Thorne. Feelings were nothing. Don't contact us again, I whispered, reading the text. She was bluffing. She always did this. She would give me the silent treatment for a week, waiting for me to come crawling back with gifts and apologies. She expected me to show up tomorrow with toys for Eli and flowers for her. But she forgot one thing. I looked around my kitchen. I saw my laptop sitting on the dining table. She forgot who paid for the data plan she was using to send that text. I walked over to the table. I pulled out a chair and sat down. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue. I logged into my bank account. I had been the family banker for 5 years. It started small. Mom needed help with a medical bill. Then Marvin needed a down payment for a truck. Then Shayna needed help with rent after her divorce. I had a good job as a project manager. I made good money and I shared it because that's what families do, right? I looked at the recurring transfers tab. There was a list. It was a long list. Mom's cable and internet, $180 per month. Mom's cell phone plan, family plan, $240 per month. Marvin's car note, $450 per month. Shayna's rent supplement, $600 per month. Eli's private tutor, $300 per month. Mom's mortgage autopay, $1,200 per month. I stared at the numbers. Totaled up, it was nearly $3,000 a month. That was half my paycheck. I drove a 6-year-old sedan so Marvin could drive a new truck. I shopped at discount stores so Shayna could buy designer clothes. I lived in a small apartment so Mom could keep the big family house. I did it because I wanted to be useful. I thought if I was useful they wouldn't leave me. But the text message was clear. Don't contact us again. Okay, Mom, I said softly. I'll follow your instructions. My finger hovered over the mouse. I started with the smallest one, Eli's tutor. I clicked cancel recurring payment. A box popped up. Are you sure? Yes, I said. Click. Gone. Next. Shayna's rent. She had told me she was looking for a job. That was 2 years ago. She never got a job. She just got more manicures. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Gone. Next. Marvin's car note. He loved that truck. He washed it every Sunday. He never washed my car. He never even offered to change my oil. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Gone. Then the big ones. Mom's bills. The cable, the internet, the phone, and finally the mortgage. I paused at the mortgage. That was the house I grew up in. That was the house where I learned to walk. It was also the house where I learned to be invisible. If I stopped paying, she would get a notice in a few days. She would have to pay it from her pension. She could afford it barely, but she wouldn't have money left for bingo or new curtains or eating out. She would have to budget. She would have to live like a normal person. I remembered her face at dinner, the pride she felt when Eli spat at me. I clicked the mouse. Cancel. Confirm. Payment series deleted. It was done. In 5 minutes, I had severed the financial arteries that kept them comfortable. I picked up my phone. I needed to reply. I needed them to know this wasn't an accident. I didn't want them calling the bank thinking there was a glitch. I typed a message to Mom. Claire understood. I will not contact you. Also, since I am no longer part of the family, I am no longer part of the family budget. Mortgage autopay ends tomorrow. Marvin needs to pay his own truck note. Shayna needs to pay her own rent. Good luck. I pressed send. I set the phone down on the table. I watched it. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. Then the explosion happened. The phone lit up. Buzz, 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 buzz. It was vibrating so hard it moved across the table. Incoming call. Mom, I declined it. Incoming call. Shayna. I declined it. Incoming call. Marvin. I declined it. Then the text started flooding in. Shayna. WTF? Claire, are you crazy? Marvin, you can't do that. They'll repo my truck. Pick up the phone. Mom, Clara Thorne, you answer me right now. This is stealing. You promised to pay that. Shayna, you're hurting Eli. He needs that tutor. You selfish, selfish. The word made me laugh. A dry, humorless laugh. They were calling me selfish. I had given them over $100,000 in the last few years. And the moment I stopped, I was selfish. The phone kept buzzing. It was like an angry insect. It was shaking with their rage. They weren't calling to apologize. They weren't calling to ask if I was okay. They were calling about their money. That hurt. It hurt deep in my chest. Even now, facing the consequences, they didn't care about me. They only cared about what I provided. I looked at the screen one last time. Mom, if you don't turn the payments back on, I am downing you. I typed one last thing. I didn't send it to the group. I sent it just to Mom. Claire, you already did. Then I did the only thing left to do. I held down the power button on the side of the phone. Slide to power off. I slid my finger across the screen. The screen went black. The buzzing stopped. The silence returned to the apartment. But this time the silence wasn't empty. It felt full. It felt heavy and protective. I looked around my quiet living room. I looked at my simple furniture. I looked at the books on my shelf. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't waiting for the thank you that never came. I was alone. I was barefoot. I was cut off. I walked over to the window and looked out at the streetlights. I felt a strange lightness in my shoulders. The weight was gone. The weight of Marvin's truck, Shayna's rent, and Mom's house, it was all gone. Peace. I had always thought peace was something you earned by being good. I thought peace was a reward for sacrifice. But I was wrong. Peace was something you took. Peace was drawing a line and saying, no more. Peace didn't have a price tag. It was free. All it cost was everything I thought I wanted. I went into my bedroom and crawled into bed. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't wash my face. I just curled up under the heavy quilt. I knew tomorrow would be hard. I knew they would come for me. I knew they would bang on my door. But for tonight the phone was off. The bank was closed and the Bank of Claire was permanently shut down. I closed my eyes and for the first time in years, I fell asleep without worrying if I had done enough. I woke up the next morning to a loud pounding on my door. My heart hammered against my ribs. For a second I thought it was Marvin. I thought he had come to scream at me about his truck payments. I stayed frozen under the quilt, staring at the ceiling. The morning light was gray and dull. Claire, open up. I have bagels. I let out a long breath. It wasn't Marvin. It was Nora. Nora's my cousin on my dad's side. She was the only person in the family who saw things clearly. She didn't come to Thanksgiving or Christmas anymore. She stopped coming 5 years ago when my mother told her that her job as a paralegal wasn't ladylike. Nora just laughed and never came back. I crawled out of bed. I was wearing the same clothes from the night before. I walked to the door and unlocked it. Nora stood there holding a brown paper bag and 2 large coffees. She looked at my wrinkled clothes. She looked at my messy hair. She looked at my bare feet. She didn't ask what happened. She just nodded. Took you long enough, she said. She walked past me into the kitchen and set the coffee down. I saw the group chat before you left it. Then I saw Shayna's Facebook post about how some people abandon family. I figured you finally snapped. I closed the door and leaned against it. I cut them off. Nora, I stopped paying for everything. Nora turned around. She had a serious look on her face. Everything, even the mortgage. Yes. Nora smiled. It was a genuine warm smile. Good. Eat a bagel. We have work to do. We spent the next 12 hours purging my life. It started with the technology. I turned my phone back on. It vibrated for 5 solid minutes with missed calls and angry texts. Nora took the phone from my hand. You don't need to read these, she said. But what if? What if what? Nora interrupted. What if they said sorry? Do you think they said sorry? I shook my head. No, exactly. So don't read the poison. She went through my contacts. She blocked Mom. She blocked Shayna. She blocked Marvin. She even blocked Marvin's wife and Shaya's ex-husband just to be safe. She changed my privacy settings on social media, so they couldn't see my posts. Digital eviction complete, Nora said, handing the phone back to me. Now the apartment. My apartment was filled with things I didn't actually like. They were things my family had given me or things I had bought to please them. There was a painting in the hallway. It was a generic picture of a bowl of fruit. Mom gave it to me 3 years ago. She said, "Your walls are too bare. It looks like a man lives here." I hated that painting. It was ugly and dull, but I kept it up because she checked every time she visited. "Take it down," Nora said. I hesitated. Mom loves that painting. "Is Mom living here?" Nora asked. "No, take it down." I lifted the frame off the hook. Behind it, the wall was pale. I put the painting in a garbage bag. As soon as it was gone, the hallway looked bigger. We went room by room. We found the sweater Shainana gave me for Christmas last year. It was a size small. I am a size medium. She knew that. When I opened it, she said, "Oh, maybe it will motivate you to lose a few pounds." I had kept it in the back of my closet, looking at it sometimes, feeling bad about my body. Nora threw it in the donate pile. "Someone else can wear it. You don't need the insults." We found the old coffee maker Marvin gave me. It was broken when he gave it to me. He said it just needs a new cord. I never fixed it. It just took up space on my counter into the trash. We found the photo albums. This was the hardest part. I sat on the floor of the living room with a stack of albums. I opened one. There was a picture of me and Shayna when we were kids. We were at the beach. I was holding her hand because she was scared of the waves. I looked so happy to be the big sister. I looked so proud to protect her. I loved them, Nora. I really did. Nora sat down next to me. She put a hand on my shoulder. "I know you did, Claire. That's why it hurts. You loved them. They loved what you did for them. There is a difference." She pointed to the photo. "Look at that picture. You are holding her. You are protecting her. Where is she?" I looked closely. Shayna was pulling away, looking at the camera, trying to be the center of attention. "Even then, you were a prop in their movie," Nora said gently. "It's okay to miss the idea of them, but don't miss the reality. We didn't throw the photos away. I wasn't ready for that. We put them in a plastic box. We taped it shut. We'll put this in the back of the closet," Nora said. "Out of sight. Maybe one day you can look at them without hurting, but not today." By the time the sun went down, my apartment felt different. It was messy with bags of trash and boxes for donation everywhere, but it felt lighter. The air felt easier to breathe. Nora ordered pizza. We sat on the floor eating from the box. "What are you going to do with the extra money?" Nora asked. "What do you mean the money? You aren't paying for 3 households anymore. You're going to have an extra $3,000 a month. That's serious money. I hadn't even thought about that. I was so used to seeing my bank account drain to zero every month. I was so used to living paycheck to paycheck, not because I didn't earn enough, but because I gave it all away." "I don't know," I said. "I've always wanted to take a pottery class and maybe buy a new car. Car that doesn't smell like old gym socks." Nora smiled. "Do it. Do both. It's your money, Claire. You earned it." After Nora left, I locked the door. I walked through my apartment. The ugly fruit painting was gone. The motivation sweater was gone. The broken coffee maker was gone. The silence was back. But this time the silence wasn't lonely. It was clean. I went to my laptop. I checked my bank account. The balance was higher than it had been in years. The mortgage payment hadn't come out. The car note hadn't come out. I felt a tiny spark of excitement. It was a small flame, but it was there. I was 32 years old, and for the first time my life belonged to me. 2 weeks passed. They were the quietest 2 weeks of my life. I went to work. I came home. I cooked dinner for myself. I slept. I expected to feel sad. I expected to wake up crying. But mostly I just felt tired. It was a deep exhaustion, like I was recovering from a long illness. My body was finally resting after years of being on high alert. At work, people noticed. My boss, Mr. Henderson, stopped by my desk. "You look rested, Claire," he said. "Did you change your hair?" "No," I said. I just stopped carrying a heavy load. He nodded confused, but he smiled. Well, it suits you. I thought the worst was over. I thought they would just disappear. I was naive. It started on a Tuesday afternoon. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. I stared at it. I knew I shouldn't look, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. I opened the message. Unknown. Eli cried all night because he couldn't go on the field trip to the science center. The school fee was due yesterday. We didn't have the $40. Hope you're proud of yourself. You broke a little boy's heart. I knew it was Shayna. She must have used a friend's phone. My stomach dropped. The science center trip. I remembered Eli talking about it a month ago. He was so excited to see the dinosaur bones. $40. It was such a small amount. If I had known, I would have paid it. I would have paid it in a heartbeat. I didn't want Eli to suffer. He was just a kid. He learned his cruelty from them, but he was still a child. I sat at my desk feeling sick. Guilt washed over me. It was cold and sticky. I felt like the bad guy. I'm the rich one, I thought. I have the money. Why didn't I just pay for the trip? I almost typed back. I almost asked for a link to pay the school directly, but then I stopped. Wait. Marvin drove a brand new truck. Shayna got her nails done every 2 weeks. That cost at least $50. Mom played bingo every Friday night, which cost $20 a card. Between the 3 adults, they couldn't find $40. They had 2 weeks to come up with the money. They knew I wasn't paying. They could have skipped one manicure. They could have skipped one bingo night. They could have sold something, but they didn't. They chose not to pay. They chose to let Eli miss the trip so they could blame me. They used Eli's sadness as a weapon to hurt me. The realization made me shake with anger. I wasn't the one who hurt Eli. They were. I deleted the text. I blocked the number. Nice try, I whispered. But they weren't done. 3 days later, Nora called me. Her voice was tight. Claire, don't freak out. What happened? Stay off Facebook. Why? Just trust me. Don't look. Of course I looked. I opened my laptop and logged into a fake account I used to check local news. I searched for Shayna's name. There it was. She had shared a link to a GoFundMe page. The title was Help Eli Thorne Get Through a Tough Year. There was a picture of Eli. He looked sad, looking down at his shoes. It was clearly staged. I read the description. Hi friends. As many of you know, our family has been going through a really hard time. My son Eli has been struggling. His father is working overtime and I'm looking for work. But we were recently abandoned by a family member who used to help us. We were blindsided. We lost our financial support overnight. Now we are struggling to pay for Eli's tutoring, his school trips, and even basic medical needs. We are terrified we might lose our home. Anything helps. Please don't let my son suffer because of someone else's cruelty. My mouth fell open. Abandoned cruelty. She didn't use my name, but everyone in our community knew who she was talking about. They knew I was the one who helped them. I scrolled down to the comments. Oh my God, Shayna, I am so sorry. Who would do that to a child? Praying for you. Some people have ice in their hearts. Is this about Claire? I always thought she was a bit stuck up. Donated $20. Stay strong, Mama Bear. They were raising money off my name. They were painting me as a monster to get pity cash from strangers. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The shame was hot and burning. I wanted to reply. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post the bank statement showing the thousands of dollars I had given them. I wanted to post a picture of the spit on my plate. I picked up the phone to call Nora. I saw it, I said. My voice was shaking. I'm going to comment. I'm going to tell the truth. No, Nora said firmly. Do not engage. That is what they want. They want to fight. But they are lying. They are saying I abandoned them. They are making money off of it. Let them. Nora said. Claire. Listen to me. If you argue, you look defensive. If you stay silent, you look dignified. The people who matter, the people who actually know you, they know the truth. The random people on Facebook don't matter. It hurts, Nora. I know it hurts. It's a smear campaign. It's what toxic people do when they lose control. They try to control the narrative because they can't control you anymore. I looked at the screen again. The donation total was up to $200. They are selling their dignity for $200. Nora said that's how desperate they are. It's pathetic. Claire. It's not powerful. It's pathetic. She was right. It was pathetic. Shayna was begging strangers for money instead of getting a job. Marvin was letting his wife beg instead of selling his expensive truck. Mom was letting them use her grandson as a prop. I closed the laptop. You're right, I said. I won't say anything. Good. Come over tonight. We'll drink wine and watch a bad movie. Okay. I hung up. I sat in my kitchen. The anger was still there, but it was cooling down into something else. Disgust. I used to look up to my sister. I used to want her approval. Now I just pied her. She was a grown woman playing the victim because she didn't want to work. I walked over to the trash can. I saw a crumpled piece of paper on the floor, an old receipt I had missed during the cleanup. I picked it up and threw it away. They could have the Facebook likes. They could have the $20 donations. I had my life back. But as I lay in bed that night, a small worry gnawed at me. The post mentioned medical needs. I assumed it was a lie, just like the field trip story. Shayna lied about everything. But what if it wasn't? What if Eli was actually sick? I pushed the thought away. It's a lie, I told myself. Just another hook. I fell asleep, but my dreams were restless. I dreamed of Eli standing in the rain, reaching out a hand while I drove past him in a brand new car. The guilt campaign wasn't working on my wallet, but it was working on my heart, and they knew it. They knew exactly where to aim. The text came 3 days after the GoFundMe page went up. It was late, almost midnight. Shayna, Eli is sick. He needs surgery on his ear. We lost the state health coverage because Marvin made too much overtime last month, but we don't have private insurance yet. The hospital wants a down payment. Please just help him. I don't care if you hate me. Don't punish him. I stared at the screen in the dark. My first instinct was lie. My second instinct was block. But then I remembered the ear infections Eli used to get when he was a baby. I remembered sitting up with him while he screamed, holding a warm washcloth to his head because Shayna was too tired to deal with it. I remembered how much pain he was in. I sat up in bed. I turned on the lamp. It's a trap, I whispered. It's a trap, but what if it wasn't? What if a 10-year-old boy was in pain and his parents were too incompetent to fix it? I didn't reply to Shayna. Instead, I got out of bed and went to my laptop. I knew who their doctor was. It was Dr. Evans at the local community clinic. I had paid the copays there a dozen times. I waited until morning. At 8 o'clock sharp, I called the clinic. Hi, this is Claire Thorne. I'm Eli Thorne's aunt. I'm calling to check on a billing issue for his upcoming procedure. The receptionist hesitated. I can't give out medical details without parental consent. I know, I said, keeping my voice calm and professional. I don't need medical details. I just need to know the amount for the deposit. I'm the one paying it. She paused. I heard typing. Oh yes. The tympanoplasty. The deposit is $2,400. It's due before the surgery on Thursday. My chest tightened. It was real. Eli needed ear surgery. And knowing Marvin and Shayna, they didn't have $24 in savings, let alone $2,400. I closed my eyes. I could say no. I could say, not my problem. I could let them figure it out. Maybe Marvin could sell his truck. Maybe Mom could take out a loan, but that would take time. And the surgery was on Thursday. If they didn't pay, Eli would have to wait. He would be in pain. I wasn't doing this for Shayna. I wasn't doing it for Mom. I was doing it for the boy who used to fall asleep on my shoulder before he learned to hate me. Okay, I said to the receptionist, I'm going to pay a portion of it right now over the phone. Oh, that's wonderful, she said. I am paying exactly $960, I said. $960? She asked, confused. Yes, that is 40%. The surgery is for a child with a mother and a father. I am the aunt. I will cover my share and a little extra, but I will not pay it all. His parents need to pay the rest. I gave her my card number. The payment went through. Please tell Shayna that 40% is covered, I said, and tell her the rest is up to her and Marvin. I hung up. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. I had broken my own rule. I had opened my wallet, but I hadn't opened it all the way. I forced them to step up. If they wanted their son to have surgery, they had to find $1,440. That was doable. They could sell things. They could work. I didn't text Shayna. I didn't text Mom. I just went to work. That evening I was washing dishes when my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail. I looked at the ID. Mom, I hesitated. Then I pressed play. I held the phone to my ear. The voice was quiet. It sounded shaky. Claire, it's Mom. The clinic called. They told us what you did. She paused. I heard a sniffle. We were scrambling. Marvin was trying to sell his golf clubs, but it wasn't enough. We didn't think you would help. After everything, after what Eli did. Another pause. I know we haven't been fair. I know we expected a lot from you today. You didn't have to do that, but you did. Thank you, Claire. Just thank you. I think I was wrong about a few things. The message ended. I stood there holding a wet plate. There was no I'm sorry. There was no we love you. But she admitted she was wrong. For Vivian Thorne, that was like moving a mountain. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I just saved the voicemail. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But the wall between us had a small crack in it. And through that crack, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Respect. They respected me today. Not because I gave them everything, but because I gave them help on my terms. I set a boundary and I stuck to it. I finished washing the dishes. I felt lighter. I had helped Eli, but I hadn't saved them. I let them carry their own weight, and for the first time they actually picked it up. 3 days after the surgery, I came home from work to find a box on my doorstep. It was a simple cardboard box taped shut with masking tape. My name, Claire, was written on the top in black marker. I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was Shayna's. My stomach did a little flip. Was this a trick? Was it a box of trash or maybe more bills they wanted me to pay? I carried it inside and set it on the kitchen table. I grabbed a pair of scissors and sliced through the tape. I opened the flaps. Inside it wasn't trash. It was memories. On top was a stack of photo albums, the ones that had stayed at Mom's house. Underneath were framed pictures of me from high school, my college graduation diploma, and a little clay pot I had made for Mom when I was 7. I picked up the clay pot. It was painted blue and green, lopsided and ugly. But Mom had kept it on her windowsill for 25 years. I thought she threw it away. When I stopped paying the mortgage, I dug deeper. There were Christmas ornaments I had made. There was my old swimming medal. They were returning my history. At the very bottom of the box there was a white envelope. I opened it. There was a single sheet of lined notebook paper. It had 2 different handwritings on it. The first part was in Shayna's loopy, messy script. Claire, Eli is okay. The surgery went well. His hearing will be fine. We sold the truck. Marvin got a sedan. It's ugly, but it runs. We paid the rest of the bill. I'm sending you your things because Mom was going to put them in the attic. And I said, no, you should have them. You didn't deserve how we treated you at dinner. I was jealous. I've always been jealous because you have your life together and I'm a mess. I taught Eli to be mean because it made me feel better. That's sick. I know. We were wrong. I'm sorry. Below that, in stiff, jagged letters, was Marvin's handwriting. Thanks for the money for the ear. I shouldn't have laughed when he spit on you. It wasn't funny. I'm sorry too. There were no signatures, just the truth. I put the letter down on the table. I waited for the tears. I waited to break down, sobbing. But the tears didn't come. Instead, I felt a profound sense of quiet. They had admitted it. Shayna admitted she was jealous. Marvin admitted he was wrong. They had sold the truck. They had actually sacrificed something for their son. They were growing up finally, and they were doing it because I forced them to. I looked at the clay pot again. I ran my thumb over the rough edge. This box wasn't a peace offering to get me back. If they wanted me back, they would have kept these things hostage. Returning them meant they were letting me go. They were acknowledging that I was separate from them. They were respecting my exit. I didn't reply to the letter. I didn't call to say thank you. I didn't need to. The silence between us had changed. It wasn't an angry silence anymore. It was a respectful distance. I took the box into my living room. I didn't hide it in the closet with the other photos. I took the clay pot and put it on my own windowsill. I took my swimming medal and hung it on the corner of my mirror. These were pieces of me. For a long time they belonged to the daughter version of Claire, the one who served the family. Now they belong to the woman version of Claire, the one who stood on her own 2 feet. I sat on my couch and looked at the pot. It looked good there. I realized then that I didn't hate them anymore. The anger that had fueled me for weeks was fading. It was being replaced by something softer. Pity, maybe a little hope, a tiny bit, but mostly closure. They were living their life, figuring out how to survive without my wallet, and I was living mine. I picked up my phone. I didn't text them. Instead, I texted Nora. Claire, they sent me a box and a letter. They apologized. Nora, really? Holy crap. Are you okay, Claire? Claire, yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm actually better than okay, Nora. Nora, good. Keep moving forward, Claire. I put the phone down. I was moving forward, but for the first time I wasn't running away. I was just walking steady and calm. I went to the kitchen and made myself a cup of tea. I drank it standing up, looking out the window at the night sky. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I was whole. Weeks turned into a month. The leaves fell off the trees and the air turned bitter cold. The holidays were approaching. I had made plans to spend Christmas with Nora. We were going to a cabin in the mountains. No drama, just snow and hot cocoa. I was looking forward to it. Then on a Tuesday evening my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. Mom, dinner Sunday, 6 p.m. Just us. Please come. I stared at the phone. Just us. That usually meant the whole circus. Marvin, Shayna, Eli, and the noise. But something about the phrasing felt different. I showed the text to Nora the next day at lunch. Don't go, Nora said, biting into her sandwich. It's a trap. They want you back on the payroll before Christmas. Maybe, I said. But they sold the truck. They paid for the surgery. They have, look shy. Hi, Aunt Claire, he mumbled. Hi, Eli, I said. How's the ear? It's good. I can hear the TV better now, he said. That's good. We sat down. Dinner was simple. Meatloaf and mashed potatoes. The same meal as that night. My heart beat a little faster. Was this a joke? Were they recreating the scene? Mom brought the platter over. She served me first. She gave me the corner piece, the crispy part she knew I liked. She sat down. I hurt my hand, Mom said, lifting her left hand. It was wrapped in a kitchen towel. Burned it on the stove. I was distracted. Are you okay? I asked instinctively. I'm fine, she said. Shayna helped me bandage it. We ate in silence for a few minutes. It wasn't the heavy choking silence of before. It was a nervous silence. Then Mom put her fork down. She looked at me across the table. Her eyes were watery. We missed you, Claire, she said. I kept eating. I've been around. I know, she said. I know I haven't been a good mother. I got so used to you fixing everything. I forgot that you were the one breaking. Shayna looked down at her plate. I was jealous, she said quietly. I told you in the letter, but saying it is harder. You were always the smart one, the successful one. I wanted to take you down a peg. It was ugly. It was. I said. Honestly, we are trying. Mom said. Marvin is working so hard. Shayna is working. I can lead the cable. We are learning. She looked at my hands. Are you happy, Claire? She asked. It was the question she had never asked. She always asked if I was successful, if I was dating, if I was rich, never if I was happy. I thought about my quiet apartment. I thought about my bank account. I thought about the pottery class I signed up for. I thought about the peace of waking up without anxiety. Yes, I said. I am. Mom nodded slowly. A tear slipped down her cheek. Good. That's good. We finished dinner. Nobody asked for money. Nobody complained about their bills. When I left, Mom didn't hug me. We weren't there yet. But she stood at the door and watched me walk to my car. Drive safe, she called out. I will, I said. I got in my car and drove away. I didn't cry. I smiled. It wasn't a movie ending. We weren't best friends, but the dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the victim anymore, and they weren't the villains. We were just people trying to figure out how to be a family without hurting each other. A week later, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. Someone had dropped it off. Inside was a piece of construction paper. It was a drawing. It showed two stick figures sitting on a bench. One was small, one was big. The sun was shining. At the bottom, in messy 10-year-old handwriting, it said, "Thank you for helping me not die." I laughed out loud. Typical Eli. Dramatic but sweet. The next day there was a knock on my door. It was Saturday morning. I opened it to find Shayna. She looked nervous. She was holding a small white envelope. "Can I come in?" she asked. Just for a second. I stepped back. "Sure." She walked into my living room. She looked around at the lack of clutter. She saw the clay pot on the windowsill. She smiled a little. "It looks nice in here, peaceful." "It is," I said. She turned to face me. She took a deep breath. She looked different without all the makeup and jewelry. She looked like the sister I had when we were kids before the world got complicated. "I sold my wedding ring," she blurted out. I stared at her. "Shauna, you love that ring." "I know, but I needed to pay you back." She held out the envelope. "It's not everything," she said. "It's $800. It's for the part of the surgery you paid. I know you said it was a gift, but I don't want it to be a gift. I want to pay my own way." I looked at the envelope. I didn't take it. "Shayna, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "I really do, Claire. I need to know that I can take care of my son, and I need you to know that I'm not a leech." I took the envelope. It felt light, but it carried a heavy meaning. "Thank you," I said. She nodded, tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm sorry I was such a jerk about everything." "I know," I said softly. Can I hug you?" she asked. I hesitated. Then I opened my arms. She hugged me tight. She smelled like laundry detergent and peppermint gum. She didn't smell like expensive perfume anymore. She pulled away and wiped her eyes. "Eli is in the car." He was too embarrassed to come up, but he waved. I walked to the window. Down in the parking lot inside the beat-up sedan, I saw a small hand waving from the back seat. I raised my hand and waved back. Shayna walked to the door. "I better go. I have a shift at the store in an hour." "Okay," I said. "See you, Shayna." "See you, Claire." She left. I held the envelope in my hand. $800. It was a fraction of what they owed me over the years, but it was the most valuable money I had ever received. It was respect money. I put the envelope on the counter. I wasn't going to spend it. I was going to put it in a savings account for Eli's college fund, but I wouldn't tell them that. Not yet. Let them feel the pride of paying it. Reparations weren't just about money. They were about fixing the balance. And for the first time in our lives, the scales were starting to even out. 6 months passed. Life settled into a new rhythm. A quiet, steady rhythm. Vivian sold the big house. It was too much for her to manage alone. And without my mortgage payments, she couldn't afford it. She bought a small 2-bedroom bungalow 3 streets away from my apartment. She didn't ask me to help her move. She hired movers. She paid for them herself. Shayna was still working at the grocery store. She had been promoted to shift supervisor. She seemed tired, but she seemed happier. She wasn't chasing a lifestyle she couldn't afford anymore. She was just living. Marvin was working hard. He stopped coming around as much, mostly because he was embarrassed, I think. But when I saw him at Mom's new house for Easter, he looked me in the eye and shook my hand. That was enough. As for me, I started a new job at Nora's firm. It was less stress, better hours. I had time to breathe. I was taking the pottery class. I was terrible at it. My bowls looked like lumpy rocks. But I loved it. I loved getting my hands dirty and making something just for the joy of it. One Saturday afternoon, I was sitting on my balcony reading a book. The sun was warm, my phone buzzed. It was a picture from Eli. It was a photo of a clay pot. It was lopsided and blue. Text from Shayna. "He made this in art class." He said, "Tell Aunt Claire we can make pots together someday." I smiled. I typed back, "Claire, tell him it's a date." I put the phone down and looked out at the trees. I thought about that night at the dinner table. The spit, the laughter, the cold walk to the car. Felt like a lifetime ago. I had lost my family that night, but in losing them, I had found myself. And because I found myself, I was able to let them come back. Not as the masters of my life, but as guests. Forgiveness wasn't a single big moment. It wasn't a scene in a movie where everyone cries and hugs and the music swells. Forgiveness was this. It was sitting on a balcony drinking tea, knowing that my phone might ring and knowing that I had the power to answer it or not. It was the long walk home and finally I had arrived. I closed my book. I took a deep breath of the fresh spring air. I was Claire Thorne. I was a daughter, a sister, an aunt, but mostly I was free. And that was the best ending I could have asked for.